Thank you, Robin. Appreciate that. All right. Let's jump in here. I've got some really cool things I want to show. One of them is ISOCreator. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But let's get down through the agenda, and you'll understand where we're going. Again, just a reminder, and I know most of you have been on multiple times, but we make this an interactive learning experience, which is an invitation for you to ask questions. Keep in mind this. Hey, Glenn, keep in mind this, that I can't answer support questions here or in the group or anywhere else for that matter. But I do want you to have freedom to be able to ask anything that you want to. We're going to strive for mastery. I'll talk about that a little bit more later this morning. And I want you to support and encourage each other, and we're going to make this a fun experience. Good morning, Pete. Good to have you on with us as well. Hey, Mark, glad you could make it. All right. Having said that, let's get started. All right. Yes, there should be sound, and I think everybody else is hearing fine. If you don't have sound, somebody please tell him how to refresh his screen. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Sonia, good morning. All right. So where we're going to go. Saw this week in the group. This was posted. I think it was posted last night, to be honest with you. Sometime yesterday, this was posted in the group. Just a couple little things to remember when you're trying to view your image in preview. It's not going to look as good as it does when you actually download the image itself. Just keep that in mind. You may set that for 300 DPI, but you're not going to see it at 300 DPI. Hey, Art, good to see you. You're not going to see it at 300 DPI, and preview is never, not on this platform or anyone else's, a good, always the best experience. It's not going to give you the best experience as to what your actual outcome is going to be. Saw a couple of things in this that I think were good. This was made at a rather large size for a logo so that it would be easy for it to be made smaller. If you make it large and then make it smaller, it's going to maintain the integrity of the image. Don't try to do it the other way around, obviously. But that was the issue with this person's situation here, is that they were trying to look at it in preview. Just remember this: preview is not a good place to look at anything. It will give you the fact that all the pieces are in the right place, but other than that, it's not going to give you the best experience, which is, if that's what you're looking for, then just go ahead and create the image and download it. Okay. The next thing that I saw in the group that we'll talk about was this, and this is really an interesting request by Rob, and so the answer is yes, we could do that. And yes, we could make a video of that. And yes, I would invite Rob to join us on a webinar, and we'd be glad to do that. Anybody, let's see, let me blow this up for a second. How would you, just quick, down and dirty, how would you go about meeting the request that Rob has made here? He wants a video tutorial of how to replace the image on the phone screen with an image from his phone screen. How would you go about doing that? Somebody give me one of the steps that you would take to do that. Hey, Rob. Anybody have any idea which step you would do first, next, whatever? Certainly you could do it in a mock-up, but the thing is, Rob wants his beautiful mug right here. The first thing that would have to happen is he would have to provide this image right here. Exactly. Then you erase the phone screen. My suggestion is erase inside this boundary right here, okay? So you've got a nice square image, because it won't do any good to try to erase this top part up here because it's rounded. But I would go in and I would just block that off. Exactly. I would block it off with an overlay, as Dorn just said, and then I would remove the overlay. Save it, remove the overlay, And then I've got this with a transparent image in the background. You could do that. You could also just overlay the image over the top of that. You could do that as well. But this is fairly easy because there's no distortion in the image. Okay, that's the thing to make sure that people understand when they take this image right here, and that is to make sure that the phone is, because it's a close-up, make sure the phone is at a perfect perpendicular angle to the direction. Does that make sense? So that the top and bottom of this, there's no distortion from the top and bottom. Because if you tilt that phone just a little bit, then the top of this image right here is going to be wider than it is down here at the bottom. And we're dealing with a flat two-dimensional area right here. So if you tilt that phone just a little bit, or if you don't have it, we talked about perspective last week. We've done webinars on perspective. So you want to make sure that you don't get the perspective out of whack here with that phone, because it's such a close-up, right? So that's kind of important. The other thing is you can add these little icons very easily. And what did we do with what happens with these icons around the outside of this? What did they do in order to make them so that they don't just reach out and grab you like that? Reduced the opacity. Very important to remember that. Reduced the opacity of them. Okay, very good. Then the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is not supposed to say personal opinion up here. That's what happens when you get on a phone call and you have to take that phone call time. Danny had asked this question, and he was trying to save an image in an A4 size. A4 is significantly larger than the images that we typically make. And what was happening was that his background was being distorted and Usign would not save it. Okay. So that was the issue. That's what was creating this. And Danny's a friend. And so I had to poke a little fun at him. And I said, I seriously hope that this would be your something that you were doing wrong. But it's not something that you were doing wrong. It's just the background image was distorted. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about briefly, because I mentioned it at the very end, the very, very, very tail end of last week's webinar. So I wanted to pick up there today. And that was life without an undo button. And this comment, I want you to get this one. The tremendous value of costly mistakes. There is great value in making a mistake. There's a tremendous learning lesson that you get when you make a mistake. And so the thing to remember, and I take this to an extreme about undo buttons, but hey, Tyree, good to see you. I always take this to an extreme about an undo button because it sets the tone for this very comment. There is a tremendous value that comes when you make a costly mistake. If I have to redo something rather than undo something, if I have to redo something, then I remember the lesson a lot better than if all I did was hit the undo button and start over. There's tremendous value in that. I think I've used the undo button probably in the webinars in 3 years. I probably used it 6 times. We didn't have an undo button when I started. Then we added it and everybody was so excited. It's like, you're not going to learn anything if you keep using the undo button. Go ahead and screw up the last 20 minutes that you just worked on and you won't ever make that mistake again. Yes, Sylvie, I get that. But there is a value. There's a value in making a mistake. There really is. You'll learn to do something over again. I'll tell you 2 very quick stories about this. I have horrendous spelling. And I used to teach in a college with my horrendous spelling. back when we had chalkboards. That tells my age a lot. And I started paying students to catch a spelling mistake. Guess what happened to my spelling? It got better. I started out buying them a cup of coffee. We got up to $2. I'd pay $2 if they caught me writing a word on the board that was misspelled. Forced myself to get my spelling better, right? Yeah, I'm a horrendous speller. The other thing that I did was I didn't learn typing in school like everybody else learned typing in school. I didn't learn typing in school. I had zero keyboard skills when computers came out, and I thought I've got to master this thing. So what I did was, if I would make a mistake in here, and this was an O instead of an R, which would tell you everything you need to know about my spelling skills. And I was at the end of this sentence, I would delete all of this and go back here. Guess how quick my spelling or my typing skills improved. There's a tremendous value in making a costly mistake. When you erase a whole paragraph and have to type it over again because you made a typing error, you'll learn to type very, very fast. There's tremendous value in making costly mistakes. That's all the time I'm going to spend on that. I just am going to remind you that your whole life will be learning, unlearning, and relearning. One of my most entertaining things ever was somebody asked a question in the group, and I had a video that I'd done on it, and Rose had a video, and we both approached the problem from a different angle. And somebody said, "So which one of you's right?" What's right was the outcome. The path to get there didn't really matter. You're going to spend your whole life learning, unlearning, and relearning. So you might as well take that and apply it to what you're doing here as well, okay? We talked about transferable skills last week and how important they were. So we talked about backgrounds, and I gave you backgrounds, and I gave you a whole bunch of backgrounds, and we went through the background process, and I showed you how to use backgrounds, and I showed you how to take the image so that the image itself, when it was busy, what to do with the how to make the text look better on a busy background, and that was by using an overlay, reducing the opacity of the overlay, which you can do on almost any platform now, and making the images that we looked at for the backgrounds last week, making those so that they were easy to read, they were easy for you to use in other platforms. And I said, this is the reason why you have transferable skills. And the very same thing that I was using Convertri as an example because it came out not because it came out, but because there was a big promotion for it in the last couple of weeks. And so I said, one of the things that you learn in Youzigners is how to make that overlay and reduce the opacity of the overlay, makes your text look really good on top of it, and you can still do that. Okay, so I talked about those transferable skills. So I'm going to give you a new background idea today. We're not going to spend very much time on this, but I am going to talk about making geometric type backgrounds and what you can do with those that also can be beneficial, okay? And how you go about creating that. I actually had that laying on the canvas when we ended last week's webinar. And so in a couple of minutes after I finished that, I just decided I would grab this and I would make this little transition type of a background here. And I didn't spend but just a couple of minutes on it. So it looks kind of funky until you do this. I took this plain background, I took this plain page right here, and I added that feature right here. Can you see the difference? Now, I know some of you are going to say, I like this one better, and some of you are going to say, I like this one better. I'm going to be as considered as I can be. I don't care which one you like. But this is a way right here to get this, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Would you find knowing how to do this to be beneficial? So spend a couple of minutes and we'll talk about how do we achieve that, okay? I agree, Mary. I believe that this gives a little bit of an appeal. The other thing is this is the template that's straight out of the box. When you put this onto it, and all I did was I changed this color and this color to match this color right here in this field, and it looks completely different than it did in this template over here. I love the templates. They're really, really nice templates in a lot of people's programs. But the first thing that you want to do is you want to make that template so that it's now uniquely yours. Okay. And so all I did was I took this right here, and while I still had my platform open, I created this background in just a couple of minutes. And then I ran over, grabbed a template that had a white background on it, and I swapped that background out with this background right here and put this content right here in a box. That's all I did. Took me less than a minute to do that. But it makes this template and this template look very, very different from each other. Would y'all agree? Yes, Image 12 was made in ISOCreator. But this is how you take a template and you make it uniquely yours. I don't want all my stuff to look like everybody else's. And something as simple as that wavy line is all that was required to make this look that much different. And yes, this is the ISOCreator, so we will open that application up and we'll play with it just a little bit this morning as well. And in the process, the tips and tricks are going to be, I'm going to show you how to make that wavy line. And then we'll jump into the ISOCreator, and we'll spend just a few minutes in the ISOCreator today. But I do want to show you how to make these geometric backgrounds because I think they're kind of cool. And I think they do add a very, very different dimension to these out-of-the-box templates. Okay? All right. So if y'all give me just a second, let me change my screen. I will move from that to the Usign canvas. Okay. So give me just a second to do this. Switch that application window and get the rest of that stuff out of the way. Now, tell me, can you all see my Usign canvas? All right, very good. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Let me adjust things just a little bit. All right. There we go. Okay. This is multiple layers, and I changed the angles, okay? So I started out with just one of these, and then I duplicated it and changed the color. And to walk through this process, I'm going to do exactly the same thing backwards here for a minute. So I'm going to make this now is going to be that color. Now, I want you to watch. I've got a bunch of layers on here, okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to fade this in. Okay, let me get this up here so I can see it. Make that cover the canvas. And this is the next one we're going to use. And now what I want to do here is I want to adjust that color just a little bit. All right. That's a little too much, but that's it. No, I'm not going to change my pointer. No, I'm not going to do that. Everybody wants me to change my pointer, and this isn't the only thing that I do, so I'm just not going to do it. So you're just going to have to follow the movement on the screen. Okay. So this is, I just want that to be enough that I have a sharp edge. See, I've got a sharp edge here and it fuzzes out over here. Can you see that? I got a sharp edge here and it fades over here. So this next image, oops, this next image I'm going to get is, and I probably got too many of these laying on top of here. So let me just start getting rid of some of these so we can build from the beginning. All right, these down here so you can see this. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is that if you start to tilt these just a little bit, the size is going to change. So can you see how I've got this a little at an angle right here? And you see that little angle down the side over there? I want to make sure that I don't have that visible here. All right, and that's because the size is just slightly different than the other size. Okay, and I'm going to tip this just a little bit. Just a little bit. I just need to tip it a few pixels. All right. Now, do you see how we're fading here? Do you see that? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another one on top of this. What did I just do? Oh, I deleted it. Well, dadgum. When you do live webinars, everybody gets to see your mistakes. The way I made this one fuzzy is I selected the special effects over here and I began to blur the edge of that special effects. I want a sharp edge at the bottom and I want a sharp edge at the top, and I want things to change colors as we go. All right, so I'm fading from one color to another, from the top sharp edge to the bottom sharp edge. Everybody following with that? Does that make sense to you? All right. Now I'm going to duplicate this again, and this time I'm going to change the color ever so slightly, like that. All right. Now, I need to make the blur more of a blur. I need to reduce the opacity just a little bit. All right. Now, are you seeing the fade from the sharp edge to here? I've got 3 images so far. The next thing I'm going to do is add another image. So now I have this one. All right. And I'm going to tip this just a little bit more, like that. Actually, I want to go the other way with it. Tip this just a little bit more this way. All right. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of that just a little bit more. Now, are you seeing the transition here? I'm going to duplicate it again. And with this one, and you get the idea, okay? With this one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the color drastically so you can see it. And change that down here to like this. And then I'm going to duplicate that last element that I had. And this time, I'm going to completely remove the blur. Got it? Sharp edge up here at the top, sharp edge down here at the bottom. Transition between here. 2 more layers and I can make that transition really easy. I just don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Does everybody understand what I've done here and why I've done it? Now, if you take this and you put it in the background that was white like this. All right, let's just do that. We'll do that for fun, okay? It's going to look very different because it's that pink color, but click over here and we'll change that background color in here. And we'll upload this image. Now, again, what you want to do is you always want to begin with your end in mind, right? You begin with the end in mind. This doesn't look like much, but does it change the look over here? And like I said, I would put this in a panel where I would have a gray background on this, so it would be easy to see. But if I understand what my end is, it is a lot easier for me to create an image that makes sense. For example, somebody asked me to duplicate a landing page that they'd gotten from somebody else, and it was theirs, but they'd actually gotten a landing page from somebody else, and it had an interesting shape in the middle of it. So let me show you the interesting kind of shape that it had in the middle of it, because you can do this virtually with anything, okay? And so what I did was it had this funny looking kind of ovals type shape in the middle of it. All right, let me change the color of that. We'll make that red so it'll be easy to see. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll duplicate this 4 times, and I'm going to hold down my shift key, rotate this to where it's at a 90-degree angle. Do this one, hold, take this one, it's a 90-degree angle. Take this one, and it is already at the right angle. So I'm just going to move it down like that. All right. Move this one out here like this, and move this one here like this. Now, y'all see that? It had an image that looked like this. All right. So what I did, and these were a lot fainter because it was a background, okay? But I did that, downloaded it, and then I put it in their page. And we have drastically changed the look. Make sense? Now, last week I called this portion of the webinar opportunities. This is an opportunity that you have to help lots of people to accomplish lots of things. All right. And this is really easy to do if you will simply play with the tools that you have available to you. That's all it takes to do that. All right. Make sense? Okay, let's spend some time with the ISOCreator. Y'all want to see the ISOCreator, and then we'll come back to the designer or the Usign canvas in just a little bit. All right. So let me grab the, let me log out or stop sharing that screen, and I'll get the ISOCreator loaded here. Give me just a second for that to pop into this screen. There we go. All right. All right. When you start it, are y'all seeing my ISO screen? Let me make sure everybody's seeing that. Okay, good. This is where you start with this. Okay, this is the very first thing that you see, and you see a plus sign up here. So this is where you will save your projects, and this is where you start a new one. Okay, and you can go over to the templates, and you can grab a template, and or you can start from scratch and just start to build it based upon. That's what I'm showing you, Robin. This is the ISOCreator makes an isometric drawing. I'll talk about isometrics in just a moment. But this, can y'all see the templates over here on the side? Let's just take the marketing agency here. And this is the way this looks. Now, this is an isometric drawing, which means it's coming from a different dimension, from a different perspective. It's not straight on. It's from a different perspective, and it angles out as you go. All right. These are intended to show you basically that this is the floor. Right? You understand that? This adds that other dimension to the drawing. If you don't have these on, let me show you. If you don't have these, you'll see what happens. All right. Again, your graphics should be rather subtle, but they should accomplish a purpose. Now, does it look like they're standing on a floor or just standing in space? Looks like they're just standing in space. So what I want to do but see, I also have a white wall over here. So what I want to do is I'm going to duplicate that. And then I start to add them back over here. And we duplicate this. Let me make it like this. Now this looks more like a floor, doesn't it? Right? So I'll add a couple more back in here. And you can see the difference that makes. All right. Now I can add something to this wall over here because I've got these things right here, and this shouldn't be there because if this is a continuation of this wall, you understand? That's a continuation of that wall. So these things are actually, in my opinion, going the wrong way on this template. But again, that's just my opinion. So what I'm going to do is go over to the graphics, and I want to add something to this that will help. And you've got all of these, objects over here that you can add. All right. Now, can you see the difference between these two chairs? So if I add this chair, it looks good over here, right? But if I add it over here, it doesn't make any sense because that's up against what should be the wall, right? So that's the reason for having multiple objects like that, because if I add a chair over here, that's kind of where it belongs, right? Are y'all following with me? This template's designed out of all of these things here. This indicates that this is a continuation of this wall going across right here. I have all kinds of shapes that I can add. But again, I got to pay attention to my shape, because if I want to add a wall coming out over here, then what I want to do, so I want to make sure that it matches the direction it should be going, correct? That makes sense to everybody? This is one of those things you just absolutely kind of have to play with. And I can, this is a really interesting looking graph, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to swap this graph out for another graph. Which is built up of all of those pieces. And I can put this graph and stand it out over here, right? Are y'all with me? This is what the ISOCreator is. Not a real complicated tool, but kind of fun to be able to play with, and adds a whole new dimension to your drawings, or to your graphics, right? And I can add some tech tools again. Remember, I can put this over here. Actually, what I can do is this, okay? Let me delete that, and we'll replace that image with a piece of furniture right here. And now I have a table that's going to the correct direction, right? And I want to make that table a little bit bigger. And I'm going to set this computer monitor. Oops. So this computer monitor on top of that, and then I bring it out to the front. I'm going to show you how to integrate this in just a minute. Dennis, you'll have to go to the inside of the Facebook group. There is a link. I don't have a link for it here, but there's a link for it inside of the Facebook group. Now, can you see how I've set that computer on top of that table? That's basically what it is. It's basic drafting skills. This is an isometric draft. This is an isometric design from drafting class. Is exactly what it is. In the Youzigners Facebook group, Dennis. Can somebody provide Dennis with a link for that, please? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do you see how, and it's very simple. You see how the angles all match up? Okay. We have two. We have those for this wall. We have those for this wall, which is all you're going to have in an isometric drawing is two directions there. All right. So earlier question was, what do you do? I'm going to save this. So now that image has been saved, and I'm going to download it. All right. Because the question was just asked, how does this integrate with Youzigners? It's a great question. This is actually a tool that was made available by the folks at Youzigners. But I'm gonna swap my screen. Any questions about this and how this works and what it takes to make this work? Because if not, I'm going to take the drawing that I just said, take the drawing I just had, and I'm going to move it over to Youzigners. All right. give me a second. Let me stop sharing my screen, and I will grab that drawing, and I will put it into the Usign canvas where we were a minute ago. So give me just a second to do that. That's a really good question, Rob. Rob's saying, how would I ever use this? It's a good question. Are you seeing my screen? Because I'm on the wrong screen. That was what my problem was. Well, wait a minute. How did I lose you all? Where'd you go? I didn't lose you. I lost my screen. I can't figure out where I lost my, there it is. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this image that I just had here. Red blobs are what you were supposed to have. So that's a good sign, right? There's the image that I just had. We'll get rid of the red blobs now. Let me get this further over so I don't lose it. All right, now I have this with a white background, right? Remember, I got these really faint lines in here, so I want to be careful what I do with this so I don't lose that. Now, this is a really large image because I've saved it as a 1200 pixels by 648 pixels. So that's how I have that saved. Now, what I can do is I can change the background slightly. And I wouldn't get too crazy with that background change. Like that. And again, this is not a sales demo. This is just to show you how you might use it. And there's been some questions that how did it work and that kind of thing. So that's the reason why I was doing that. So now, does this look better than it did when it was on the white background? So let's take this one step further. I'm now going to download this. And in this case, what I'm going to do, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to go back over here to Convertry. In this cart, I'm going to add an image to this page. Okay. Let me replace this section right here with that image. And then you tell me if you think this is beneficial. So I'll upload the image I just saved. What do you think? Now, I selected this background here, and I selected a gradient background. I probably could have easily done this gradient background to go this direction right here. Might have even looked better than it does in the gradient going this way. But that's the point that I wanted you to see, is that there are places, again, the image can't do the work for you. The image can get attention for you. I see this statement right here, this whole, I'm actually going to just duplicate this and move it up here to the top. Now, do you see how beneficial that then becomes? All right, any questions about that? I wanted you to see how the tool worked and how you could integrate it into what you're doing. Again, by itself, it creates a very plain looking background, but because of what we have in Youzigners, you can do some awesome things with this background. Okay, I can actually make it, I can do some pretty awesome stuff with this. I actually like that the best, to be honest with you. And so that gradient background becomes a really interesting addition to this isometric drawing. Now, do you see how much that furniture now pops? You see how important these pieces on the floor are? So don't forget those, because they play a vital role in how the in how this is supposed to look. The chair has nothing to do. I mean, it literally has nothing to do with the overall look, but it really adds to. It has nothing to do by itself, but it has a lot to do with the overall look. That's exactly what I was trying to say, Jane, and I couldn't get the words out. She said the chair helps define the space. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say, and I couldn't say it. All right, any other questions? Exactly. It allows you to use a creative imagination. And if you, for example, when I stuck this over here and just added this up here at the top, you don't need to be able to see any of this or make any sense out of it, but it does at least add some attraction to what you're trying to say here. This space right here, actually, it's not. What that's saying is that this is a computer sitting in the room. This is one wide open room, is what it's saying. That's kind of what I was thinking, except I would have never used Microsoft, since that's that stand actually looks like a Mac. I think I could be wrong, but yes, not the first thing that ever comes to my mind is Microsoft, but I totally agree with you, Rob. I totally agree. And that's all it is. It's just something to add. I wouldn't use this on every single sales page. I would use it occasionally. I wouldn't wear it out. I'd use it occasionally. And it has a good occasional fit. All right, any other questions? We got done a little faster than I expected to because nobody had any questions when we're on the isometric, because it's so easy. I mean, there's nothing complicated. If you can understand which direction so that you don't have this chair facing into the wall, then you pretty much have got it figured out. By the way, those are proportionally, those are too large for the two guys that are in the room. All right, anything else? I'll be excited to see you create some backgrounds and put them on something. All right, so y'all create some backgrounds. I did that. I made a little video. Listen, I don't have any control over that video. That I just dump the images in there and it creates the rest of the stuff. Put that inside of the inside of the Youzigners group, just so people could see what those backgrounds that we made last week looked like when you put them together as an illustration for a client, or if you wanted to be able to offer services or something like that. It's a really easy way to put that together as a video presentation. I had no control over the images, over the colors of the text that was there. Only the templates that I showed, Rob. I just scrolled through them pretty quickly. Any other questions? So make some geometric designs. You can think about this for a moment. We've got some pretty interesting stuff. All right. No, if you're limited by the templates, then your imagination is way too limited. That's the problem. Is my job isn't to give you everything in a package. It's to give you things that will trigger your imagination so you can do the stuff that your mind will take you places that you can never go. All right. There are some interesting patterns that you can do that also work really well for backgrounds. Okay. And I would highly recommend that you take a look at these. This one's really interesting. All right. And you have the ability to be able to change your colors over here. So I could actually make that color a different color if I wanted to, like that. So think about your patterns as well, because you do have the opportunity to do that. Now, what you would want to do here is probably reduce the opacity of this. And in order to do that, you would have to save it as an image, import the image, and reduce the opacity of the image. The other thing you can do is you can put a filter over the top of it. That's kind of an interesting look too, right? All right. Any other questions, comments, or I'm saving the complaints until the last 3 seconds so I can log out if you're going to complain. All right. Have fun. Enjoy your weekend. Take a few minutes and pound away at this. Just play. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself. All right. The people I can never help are the people who start everything with "I'm frustrated." So have a good time. All right. See you back here next Friday, same time, same place.